Hot Stove Stock Watch for all 30 teams. Who has actually done something this winter? The hot stove appears to be on the fritz this winter, serving up only a few lukewarm morsels to whet our withering appetites. At least it gives us plenty of time for concocting lame metaphors. The off-season's rumors to news ratio has been wildly skewed toward the former. Surely, that will change soon, if only because there are dozens of useful veterans still lingering on the open market and there are more than a handful of playoff hopefuls with roster holes still to be plugged. It has to change soon, right? Spring training is only 6 weeks away, though given the frigid temperatures across most of the country, it seems like more than that. Still, teams will be mostly finishing off the winter work this month, which should make for the rare off-season in which January holds as much intrigue as December. This isn't to say that nothing has changed since we established our pre-hot stove baselines. It's just that things haven't changed as much as they might have given a normal rate of hot stove activity. Today's check-in orders the teams by how much the forecast based on simulations of the upcoming season has changed since our last installment, making it a nifty summary of how this winter has ever so slowly progressed. The aggressive Philadelphia Phillies New Year's win projection, 77.3 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 5.9 rank, 1 playoff probability, 14% championship probability, 0.2%. The Phillies are the most improved team of the winter because they represent a combination of unusual, for this winter, aggressiveness, and the lack of high-stakes activity elsewhere across baseball. They've been proactive, signing Carlos Santana, Tommy Hunter and Pat Neshek, and they also have a number of young players on the ascension. That doesn't make the Phillies much of a playoff contender just yet, but one more move to stabilize the top of the starting rotation would make Philadelphia a popular sleeper pick for a wild card push next season. Even if that ahead-of-schedule run doesn't happen, brighter days are just around the corner for the Phillies. Los Angeles Angels New Year's win projection, 88.7 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 4.9 rank, 2 playoff probability, 58% championship probability, 3.5%. As long as the Angels are throwing money around, why not jump into the Yu Darvish sweepstakes? As of now, the Angels look like a slight favorite over the Twins for the AL's second wild-card spot. That status would be weakened if Minnesota signs Darvish, as has been a rumored desire for the Twins all winter. But if the Angels landed him, Darvish would push the on-paper Angels near Boston for the top wild-card spot and put LA in position to take advantage of an unexpected collapse from the Astros. It's only money, right? San Diego Padre New Year's win projection, 71.6 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 4.8 rank, 3 playoff probability, 4% championship probability, 0%. The Padres have been the poor man's Phillies this winter, adding Freddie Galvis and Chase Headley to stabilize the infield. At the same time, San Diego can hope to get further improvement from the likes of Manuel Margot, Hunter Renfroe, Austin Hedges and even Will Myers. That said, San Diego is nowhere near short-term playoff contention. A successful pursuit of Eric Hosmer wouldn't change that outlook by much, as the only thing that would be an early influx of impact talent from the Padres' deep, but raw, minor league system. Not just yet. San Francisco Giants New Year's win projection, 80.5 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 4.0 rank, 4 playoff probability, 23% championship probability, 0.4%. The Giants have an estimated $593 million committed to 9 players currently on the roster. All of them except one, Madison Bumgarner, will be in their age 30 season or older in 2018. Apparently, this is the new price tag for mediocrity. But hey, at least the Giants look better than they did 6 weeks ago. Small step stickers Rangers New Year's win projection, 76.2 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 2.9 rank, 5 playoff probability, 8% championship probability, 0.1%. The Rangers have a lot of maneuvering left to do until spring training arrives, especially since the current projected rotation includes 2 guys, Mike Minor and Matt Bush, who will be transitioning from bullpen roles. Texas seems as logical a choice as anybody to sign one of the big-ticket free agent pitchers Jake Arrieta, Yu Darvish, but apparently isn't too keen to make the splash, which is understandable. Still, you'd like to see if the Rangers could turn Jurickson Profar into some kind of rotation, a bullpen solution. Kansas City Royals New Year's win projection, 67.3 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 2.2, rank, 6, playoff probability, 1%, championship probability, 0%. The Royals' uptick in win forecast to a still terrible 67.3 isn't a product of their incomplete off-season work, but because of outside forces that improved their success in the simulations. The latest rumors that have Kansas City making a huge offer to Hosmer aren't that surprising, unless you thought Dayton Moore's statements about wanting to keep Hosmer were just lip service for the fans all along. But even if the Royals end up keeping Hosmer, that's not going to move KC's 2018 outlook anywhere near contention, especially once you consider that the signing would likely have to be accompanied by payroll slashes elsewhere. Chicago White Sox New Year's win projection, 60.8 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 1.9, rank, 7, playoff probability, 0%, championship probability, 0%. That the White Sox slot right behind the Royals. This grouping should stand out for this reason: the Royals' current forecast of 67.3 wins ranks 29th in the majors, yet it is 6.5 wins better than Chicago's 2018 baseline. And yet, we know that none of that has any particular relevance to a Chicago rebuilding plan that is coming along quite nicely. Thank you very much. Milwaukee Brewers New Year's win projection, 70.6 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 1.8, rank, 8, playoff probability, 3%, championship probability, 0%. The Brewers continue to pop up in the rumor mill's possibilities for the likes of Jake Arrieta, Yu Darvish and Alex Cobb. On paper, this doesn't make much sense. The projection systems see a lot of regression on the Milwaukee roster, as you'd expect from a team that improved by 13 games last season. Then you have the uncertainty over rehabbing starter Jimmy Nelson and the loss of key setup man Anthony Swarak. There just isn't a lot of analytical heft in Milwaukee's outlook. Nevertheless, given the success that GM David Stearns has had in finding value in overlooked places, if he feels the Brewers are in position to make a next-step acquisition, who are we to question him? St. Louis Cardinals New Year's win projection, 90.2 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 1.4, rank, 9, playoff probability, 73%, championship probability, 5.3%. As much as it looks like the Cardinals are one more splashy acquisition from leaping into the elite, there isn't a great deal of urgency for St. Louis to make the kind of move. They clearly are a solid playoff contender as constructed. Given a farm system with a lot of attractive pieces, the Redbirds might be best served to get into the 2018 season and then see how things stand in June or July. The bullpen doesn't look airtight at the moment, but there also doesn't seem to be anyone left on the free agent market who is really going to change that assessment, unless the price tags for Greg Holland or Addison Reed come down. New York Mets New Year's win projection, 83.2 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 1.3, rank, 10, playoff probability, 38%, championship probability, 1.3%. This isn't a bad outlook for the Mets. It puts them on the periphery of the NL wildcard chase, which is currently headed up by the Cardinals. New York looks to be the best of the next tier of middling teams, a group that includes the Diamondbacks, Rockies, Giants, Pirates and Phillies. In the Mets' case, they can wait out the winter knowing that, as usual, rotation health is the key to everything. Meanwhile, they can see if the position player group accelerates its collective development, which could happen with any or all of Dominic Smith, Amed Rosario and Brandon Nimmo. They also have to get Michael Conforto back on the field. If enough of these things progress in a positive direction, the Mets could be positioned to make an impact move during the season. Cincinnati Reds New Year's win projection, 71.8 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, 1.2, rank, 11, playoff probability, 4%, championship probability, 0%. The Reds signing of veteran reliever Jared Hughes didn't exactly mark Cincinnati as World Series favorites. Hughes is a competent reliever and a terrific clubhouse presence for a Red staff that will be very young for the next couple of years. That the Hughes acquisition is pretty much the sum of Dick Williams' work this winter really only means one thing: all hope for a Reds revival is tied to the development of their young pitchers. You can make a case that Williams should sell on Billy Hamilton, but in lieu of another defensive solution for center field, such a move wouldn't really make things any easier for those young hurlers. New York Yankees New Year's win projection 94.2 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast 0.7 rank 12 playoff probability 82% championship probability 10.0%. This modestly improved forecast for the Bombers is a bit of a surprise. In trading for Giancarlo Stanton and re-signing CC Sabathia, the Yankees are the one elite team to make an impact transaction this winter. Yet because of New York's desire to stay under the tax threshold, the effect is fairly marginal. Starlin Castro and Chase Headley, both sent away to free up payroll, had positive value. More importantly, New York looks like it needs two starting caliber additions to the infield. One of those spots might be filled by super prospect Gleyber Torres, but Brian Cashman may have to get creative to fill the other spot. Of course, this is all relative. The Yankees look strong enough that Cashman can afford to wait until the season to make more improvements unless a bargain falls into his lap between now and spring training. Atlanta Braves New Year's win projection 71.6 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast 0.6 rank 13 playoff probability 4% championship probability 0%. The Braves are a sleeper for wild card contention next season. For one thing, the race for the NL's second wild card slot looks tepid at the moment. For another, the Braves have rock-solid foundational talents in the primes: Freddie Freeman, Ender Inciarte and Julio Teheran. Finally, there is a ton of upside in the Atlanta organization, some of which might start to manifest in 2018. Dansby Swanson, Ozzie Albies, Sean Newcomb, Ronald Acuna and Max Fried, Luis Guevara and Lucas Sims could all help Atlanta fly past whatever number the preseason forecast lands on. Much depends on the early season performance by the pitching staff. Oakland Athletics New Year's win projection 73.2 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast 0.6 rank 14 playoff probability 4% championship probability 0%. The Rays may be rebuilding, but they've still added 3 players this winter who should help the big league roster in 2018: Steven Piscotty, Yusmeiro Petit and Emilio Pagan. If the latter pair can help the bullpen support all of the young rotation pieces, Oakland can be competitive next season and enter next winter looking to move up the ladder. Colorado Rockies New Year's win projection 78.3 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast 0.4 rank 15 playoff probability 15% championship probability 0.2%. This is not the outlook you want to see for a team that will be paying the back end of its bullpen $37.5 million this season. Toronto Blue Jays New Year's win projection 81.4 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast 0.4 rank 16 playoff probability 22% championship probability 0.8%. talk. So you didn't want to tear down? Fine. And you didn't want to overpay early in the off-season? Understandable. But now that the free agent market has developed so slowly, aren't we at the point where the Blue Jays need to add? Very much so. Grade incomplete. Baltimore Orioles New Year's win projection 74.1 change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast 0.2 rank 17 playoff probability 5% championship probability 0%. If you don't trade Manny Machado, then you're going for it in 2018. But you're not doing that with a rotation of Dylan Bundy, Kevin Gausman, Wade Miley and a slew of replacement-level guys. But to land pitchers who are really going to make a difference, you've got to dole out contracts that extend well past next season, after which Machado seems sure to be gone. The solution? It will be very interesting to see how Dan Duquette addresses this dilemma over the next few weeks. Losing ground. Detroit Tigers New Year's win projection, 70.5. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -0.2. Rank 18. Playoff probability, 2%. Championship probability, 0%. The Tigers have been active in taking flyers on players who might be turned into near-term trade pieces if they turn things around in Detroit. On the Major League roster, that includes Leonis Martin, Mike Fiers, and, possibly, Derek Norris. Al Avila also has already signed a number of veteran minor leaguers to fill out the organization. Maybe they all turn out to be filler, but this is what rebuilding teams do. Seattle Mariners New Year's win projection, 79.6. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -0.7. Rank 19. Playoff probability, 16%. Championship probability, 0.2%. Jerry Dipoto has really turned over the pitching mix around Felix Hernandez, James Paxton and Edwin Diaz since this time last year. The hope is that the Mariners can hit on the right combination to support what looks like a solid position group bolstered by the additions of Ryan Healy and D. Gordon, a hope that probably hinges on better staff health. Still, it sure looks like Seattle has lost ground to the division rival Angels in the AL wildcard mix. Boston Red Sox New Year's win projection, 91.1. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -0.9. Rank 20. Playoff probability, 71%. Championship probability, 5.8%. The Red Sox have stood pat this winter, though they've been involved in so many of the high-profile rumors that it hardly seems like it. Boston's need for a middle-of-the-order hitter is exactly as urgent as it was at the end of the 2017 season. That season, as you remember, landed Boston in the postseason. While the Sox have lost ground to the Yankees this winter, they still are very much the leading wild-card contender in the AL and close enough to New York that another division crown would be less than shocking. So while the pursuit of J.D. Martinez is worth seeing through, it's not a season killer if it falls short. There will be sellers in July. Chicago Cubs New Year's win projection, 96.0. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -1.1. Rank 21. Playoff probability, 90%. Championship probability, 13.4%. In signing Tyler Chatwood, Brandon Morrow, Steve Cishek and the injured Drew Smyly, the Cubs have been active. Yet the search for pitching continues, and apparently Chicago isn't going to dip into its deep pool of position players to make an upgrade to the staff. And while that might worry some, just remember, when you're beginning with a 96-win baseline, all of your options are good ones. Pittsburgh Pirates New Year's win projection, 80.0. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -1.6. Rank 22. Playoff probability, 21%. Championship probability, 0.3%. See the Blue Jays comment. Minnesota Twins New Year's win projection, 84.3. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -1.9. Rank 23. Playoff probability, 35%. Championship probability, 0.9%. The Twins are in the same boat as the Brewers in that, after a leap forward in 2017, they've been rumored to be in on the high-profile free agent pitchers, thus far to no avail. But Minnesota is starting from a much stronger baseline than Milwaukee, and the addition of someone like Yu Darvish would in theory mean more to the Twins than the Brewers. Stay tuned. Tampa Bay Rays New Year's win projection, 76.8. Change in win projection from pre-hot stove forecast, -2.1. Rank 24. Playoff probability, 9%. Championship probability, 0.1%. Are the Rays rebuilding? If so, it's a pillowy soft rebuild. Trading franchise icon Evan Longoria is unfortunate for the Rays brand, but on the field, it may not make much difference. Kevin Cash has a lot of infield options, and if the sell-off doesn't extend into the starting rotation, Tampa Bay should be strong in that area as well. Still, there is a nearly 12-win